Hey guys, it's Allie, and in today's nail care series video, I'm going to be showing you guys my 5 painting techniques. Yes, 5. The first one, again, is just the regular painting technique. The second one is how to make your nail polish last longer. And the third one is going to be how to make your nails look really healthy. The last 2 techniques are going to be showing you how to work with different formulas. Alright guys, so this is the first technique. This is just the basic technique that we're going to be using on basically every single technique from here forward. What you want to do is get your polish, get a decent amount of polish on the brush, and you're going to place the brush about 3/4 of the way back and just push back a little bit to the cuticle and then bring it forward. And you're going to do that, you're going to go back to the starting point and swipe on one side, back to the starting point, swipe on the other side, and then just even out what you've applied. Okay, let's do it again. So again, you're going to get a decent amount of polish on the brush, the amount that you're comfortable with. We're going to talk about thin and thick coats momentarily. But then you're going to place the brush about 3/4 of the way down the nail, push it back toward the cuticle just slightly, and then drag it forward. And then you're going to go back to the starting point, drag it on one side, back to the starting point, drag it on the other side, and then even everything out as best you can. Now this is how I paint my nails for manicures, not how I show you in the swatches. In the live swatches, I'm generally just trying to show you the consistency of the polish, so getting the perfect manicure look really isn't necessary for that. So let's do the last nail just in case you're needing one more visual of that. And again, you're just going to grab a decent amount of polish from your bottle, bring it over about 3/4 down the nail, push back, drag forward, and then hit the sides. Alrighty, so that's the basic painting technique. You also want to paint, if you're new, you want to be painting on a flat surface that is going to keep your hands and nails nice and steady so that they aren't turning on you, or you're having to paint in suspended air, your nails while they're suspended in air. It's best to use a nice flat surface. And that's pretty much how you're going to be painting using the regular painting technique. Kind of the basic painting technique for all manicures. Alright guys, so this is technique number 2. This is going to be how to paint your nails if you are wanting longer lasting manicures. And really the key here is going to be using nice thin coats. So my technique for getting a thin coat is to, let me see if I can show you. My technique for getting a thin coat is, as I am working the polish through, as I'm trying to thin out the amount of polish that's on the brush, I'm going to just kind of circle, 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 drag, and then I'm going to drag the opposite side as well. And then whatever is left on that side is what I'm going to use. So that's how I get a thin coat. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Then you're just going to use the same technique. You can see how much thinner the polish is on the nail. That is what you want if you were going for, if you're trying to achieve a longer lasting manicure. You want to stack thinner coats on top of the nail as opposed to thicker ones. So I'm just going to do that again off camera. Well, I guess I'll do it on camera, but I just grab, I swirl, 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 I drag it to the back, then I drag it to the front, and then whatever's on the back is what I use to achieve my thinner coat. You can really see how that is a really, really nice thin coat of polish. Okay, swirl, 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 drag, drag, and then apply. Okay, and then all you're going to do is just continue to apply until you get it opaque. It should be opaque in about 3 coats. This is a pretty good polish, so it should be opaque in about 3 coats, and you should have a longer lasting manicure using this technique. Alright guys, so here we are doing the thicker coats for more aesthetic or more aesthetically pleasing nail for me. Again, that's all subjective. It's cosmetic, so it's subjective. Basically, I do the same technique with the brush, except I skip one step from the thinner. I pull it out, swirl, 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 I brush it off the back, and then I apply. So I don't do that extra step of swiping it off of the front. That gives me way more polish, as you can see. You get way more coverage and a thicker application. Okay, so let's do that 2 more times. Swirl, 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 only rubbing off the back, and apply. Okay, and last nail. And yeah, that is how I paint my nails for more aesthetically pleasing manicures. I just use a thicker coat, and this will only take 2 coats using the thicker coats, and it will be completely opaque and just so beautiful like I like it. Alright guys, so next up I have a thin polish. This is the Lime Starts Here. This is a thinner polish by Color Club. It is a beautiful neon green, but it is a thinner formula. So I'm going to show you how I apply polish when I'm using a thinner formula. You don't always know that a formula is going to be thin until you actually paint with it. That's what happens every single time I do a live swatch. I have never opened the polish before I do the live swatch. So sometimes it's just learning by applying it to the first nail. But in this case, we know that this is a thinner formula, so I'm going to show you what I do. The first thing I'm going to do is apply a very thin coat, and you guys just saw how I get thin coat, so I'm not going to revisit that. But I apply a very thin coat to the nail on the first coat. This is almost imperative. You want a thin coat, and you really want to get it really as even as you possibly can. Now, if you have a thin polish already, you may not have to do a lot of swiping off of the brush because it's probably just going to run off of the brush in the bottle. So just, you know, use your judgment on that. This one, yeah, I just did my same technique and it didn't work. So I'm just going to use my thicker technique. Because it's a thinner polish, it's not going to hold as much on there, but I'm still getting a nice thin coat, and I'm trying to get this as even as possible. There will be some streaks. Generally with thinner polishes you're going to have some streaks, but you really just want to get this as even as possible. Alright guys, so that coat is done and it's dry, so we're going to apply the second coat. And for the second coat, you want to apply a thicker coat. Don't do much getting polish off of the brush at all with this. I generally go on with a nice amount of polish and apply a thicker coat. And here you're wanting again to just minimize your streaks, but you really want to build up the color. See the difference between the two? Color is built up. If you were here in person, you'd be able to see that you can clearly see my nail line and some streaking, but the color is really well built, and some of those streaks from the first coat are covered, which is great. So a thicker second coat. Okay, we'll let that dry and then we'll come back for the third. Alright guys, and so the second coat is now dry. We're going to put on the third coat. We're going to go with an equally thick coat as we did on the second. And we're really going to focus on just getting this completely opaque and even. So actually this might be a little bit thicker. Okay. So the key here is a nice thin and as even as you can possibly get it on the first coat. That's going to make getting your polish even and opaque on the second and third coat much easier. And that is my technique for applying a thinner polish. I don't prefer thinner polishes. I think they take too much time and too much thought, but some polishes, you know, you just love the color and you want to wear it even though the formula isn't the best. That's how you do it. Alright guys, and in this last segment we are going to talk about how to work with thicker polishes. And I'm using Floss Gloss's Wave Pull. This is kind of a minty green, very thick formula, and I'm going to show you how to apply that. So the basic technique is going to be to remove all the excess off of your brush that's going to cause flooding of the cuticles and whatnot. And to do that, I'll show you what I do. I pull the brush out from the bottle, and then I just go knock the polish off of the sides of the brush like so, and the back, so that I don't have too much. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and apply it to your nails. 1 swipe, 2 swipe, 3 swipe, and you're going to work it trying to get it even. But what you're doing is you're kind of floating the brush on top of the polish as opposed to pressing down. So I'll show you that again so that you can kind of see better what I mean. So I'm pressing just like my normal stroke, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to kind of float the brush over the top of the polish just so that I can kind of work out some of those streaks without creating any new ones. And do one more. So again, apply it like normal, and then just kind of float the brush over the top to get rid of any streaks. Sometimes you'll create some new ones that way. I did on this nail, but we'll fix that with the second coat. Alright guys, so we're back for the second coat. On the second coat, you want to be sure to use a little bit less polish, and you want to really try to float this over the top. This will help create just a nice covering of the streaks that are in your polish. Sometimes what I do is just get enough for a little section and then get enough for the next section, and I'm just trying to float that over the top. That avoids any other streaks, creating any other streaks. Now you really want this polish to self-level. This is not the best at self-leveling. You can see a little indentation. Harder to see on camera, very easy to see in person, but a little indentation, but that's fine. Top coat will cover that just fine. So again, you want to get a decent amount of polish on the brush, and we'll just start with one section, and I'm just floating it over. I don't think the brush is making contact with the nail plate directly. It's just floating over on the top of the top layer of polish, and that will allow you to cover, the polish will cover the streaks without creating any new ones. Okay, apply and just float it over the top. Now that's one good thing about thick polishes, is you can get them opaque quicker because you can use that floating technique. With a thin polish, the polish isn't going to be thick enough for that technique to work. So that is how I work with thicker polishes. This technique also works with glitters and textured polishes, anything that's going to be a little bit on the thicker side, it will work. So I hope you guys enjoyed those 5 painting techniques. I hope they help you. If you found this video helpful or useful, give me a thumbs up. You can also leave me any requests that you have or nail care related questions in the comment section just below the video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe so that you can join the fun. So I will see you guys in the next video. Again, thank you so much for watching. I love and appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video.